What's going on, everybody? Victor here with a brand new video, and I have to talk about one of the main matchups that's going to be taking place at UFC 280 back in Abu Dhabi Fight Island in the UAE. This fight is a bantamweight showdown that has some very huge implications for one of these individuals. I'm talking about the fight between the rainbow-haired warrior Sugar Sean O'Malley, 15-1. 11 KOs in his record. Yes, 11 KOs. He likes to finish people. Versus the former interim UFC bantamweight champion of the world, the former unified UFC bantamweight champion of the world, Petr Yan, with 16-3, 8 finishes in his career. Half of his wins have been finishes. Both these guys like to finish off their opponents. Both these guys like to go in to the octagon, put in a show, get in there quick, and get out of there as fast as possible as well. And both these guys are trying to get back in the title implication. Obviously, Sean O'Malley hasn't been there before. This is going to be the hugest and the biggest step up in competition for Sean O'Malley. The previous ranked opponent that he's only faced in the UFC was Pedro Munoz. Obviously, that fight had to end because of a disqualification as a result of an eye poke. Before that, the other guy that he faced that's currently ranked right now and is going to be ranked in the top 5, top 4 is Chito Vera, but that was when Chito Vera was barely even ranked in the top 15 of the division. Even if he was probably ranked top 15, the top 10, or around there. But that was a couple years back when both those individuals were still trying to make their way into the rankings. Ended up losing to Marlo Chito Vera. That was his first career loss in his whole entire career. And kind of exposed Sean O'Malley as well, because a lot of people thought that his ankles were weak, his calves were weak, that if you go in and try to go in with a heavy approach on the calf kicks, then you'll be able to beat Sean O'Malley pretty easily. Now, he proved that wrong against Pedro Munoz. He had a couple of good, heavy leg kicks, and it didn't take him down whatsoever. So, obviously, Sean O'Malley is trying to go in here and trying to upset and pull off one of the biggest upsets of the year as well against Petr Yan, who's a former, like I said, former UFC interim bantamweight champion, former unified bantamweight champion as well. He's faced the who's who of the whole entire division. Basically everyone that you can really think of. He fought Uriah Faber. He ended up fighting Jose Aldo. Fought Aljamain Sterling twice. Fought Corey Sandhagen. I'm literally talking about the who's who of the division that he's fought. Even beat Jimmy Rivera when Jimmy Rivera was pretty hot in the UFC before getting cut by the promotion. He's basically faced everybody, almost clean out the whole entire division. Obviously, the new faces are coming into the top 10 almost every single week. So, another new challenge, but he's faced the majority of the guys in one of the most stacked divisions in the UFC and continues to keep improving and improving. And he's only getting better. He's still a very young guy. So is Sean O'Malley. Both these guys are pretty young. But if there's one thing about Sean O'Malley that we all know is that he likes to do his work on the feet. He loves to strike. He's a taller, lankier fighter with a bigger reach and a bigger height advantage than Petr Yan. But Petr Yan obviously isn't going in here thinking that I'm going to be screwed just because this guy is taller and lankier than me. He's obviously faced other people in the past that were taller and lankier than him. Like I said, for the interim UFC Bantamweight Championship of the World, he ended up facing Corey Sandhagen. Faced a little bit of adversity in that first round, but ever since that first round, he just ran away with the whole fight for the second, third, fourth, and fifth rounds. Wasn't even a close fight at all against Corey Sandhagen, who basically has a similar body structure as Sean O'Malley does. But if there's one thing about Sean O'Malley is that he likes to use the reach. He likes to use the distance, which is extremely key in his fights. He likes to use the leg kicks to be able to set up his opponents for the finish, and he likes to use a lot of pressure. He likes to walk his opponents down the octagon in order to set them up for a combination that would possibly set them up for a finish or get the knockdown in order to finish them off via ground and pound. I remember when he fought Eddie Wineland, he was able to shut his lights off with one punch. I believe it was a straight right hand that basically put the legend to sleep. And ended up coming back, having a couple more fights. He ended up beating Thomas Almeida, who was very hot in the UFC until he got knocked out against Corey Garbrandt, and that hype train basically got derailed and had never seen the light of day ever since. Not only Thomas Almeida, but he also knocked out Raul Paiva as well. Raul Paiva, who had beaten a Kyler Phillips, and that fight that he had with Collar Phillips was absolutely ecstatic. It was absolutely really close, and a Collar Phillips that also trains at the MMA lab alongside Sean O'Malley. So obviously, you already knew a little bit of Raul Paiva before taking that fight against him. Ended up knocking him out as well, using a lot of pressure. And also, there's one thing about Sean O'Malley is that he does know how to evade a lot of strikes. He does know how to fight backwards as well, and that's definitely really something to have when it comes to fighting Petr Yan, because Petr Yan's boxing is definitely one of the best in the UFC. Definitely top 3 in the division, because his striking is just something, because he's like a laser, he's like a sniper, for crying out loud. He's basically a Russian sniper. He knows how to pinpoint his strikes. He knows how to execute. And when he hits you, you tend to go down. And he doesn't let you off the loose for a single second. And he also likes to use his kicks as well. Obviously, even though he likes to use the boxing, because he did have a heavy boxing background before coming into mixed martial arts, and he continues to use it to this day, he also likes to use his kicks as well. If I'm him, I'm definitely going to try to go and use those calf kicks. I'm definitely going to try to utilize some flying knees as well, because like I said, he's going to be the smaller individual coming into this fight. He's definitely going to have to get some elevation in order to hit Sean O'Malley with any type of knees whatsoever, if it's not against the fence. And if I'm Sean O'Malley, if Petr Yan is trying to go down for a takedown, shoot up with the knee. That's one of the most perfect strikes to use against the takedown, is the knee straight out the middle, hit your opponent on the jaw, and possibly knock them down, or wobble them a little bit and show them some respect. Show them that you are not the one to be played with, especially when it comes to takedowns and trying to get taken down against. So, Sean O'Malley, you want to keep this fight on the floor, not on the floor, but on the feet the whole entire time. If I'm Petr Yan, it doesn't really matter, because Petr Yan is a complete mixed martial artist, but does he have the ability to take Sean O'Malley to the ground? Absolutely. If there's also one thing that we all need to know about Petr Yan, is that he's a very strong individual. He doesn't only just have power, but he also has strength at the same time. He's going to be the stronger individual, the more powerful individual coming in this fight against Sean O'Malley. And I'm not going to give him the speed advantage, because I'm going to give that to O'Malley, because when O'Malley throws his combination and his strikes, he tends to throw them very, very fast, which tends to blind his opponents at the same time. But if there's one thing about Petr Yan, is that his octagon IQ is definitely up there with the absolute best in this whole entire business. Weight class is not included. And if there's one thing about Sean O'Malley, it's that he's still green, he's still growing in this sport, and he's going to have to come in here laser focused, 110% on the goal of winning, because he's facing a former champion. He's facing someone who's ranked extremely ahead of him, and he's facing his stiffest test of the day in his whole entire career. This is literally a David versus Goliath type of matchup, but Sean O'Malley is going to be the David, because let's be honest, when we think about Goliath, we think about a tall, huge, strong monster, and we think about David. He's pretty small and he's pretty weak, but he can pull off the upset. The roles are literally reversed. Sean O'Malley is going to be David, and the smaller Petr Yan is going to be the Goliath. And I think the Goliath is going to win in this matchup, because Petr Yan, I think he's going to be too much for Sean O'Malley to handle. I think his striking is definitely going to be on full display, and I do believe he's going to utilize a little bit of his takedown as well. He's going to get Sean O'Malley on the cage against the fence, smother him a little bit, get the takedown, connect both of his hands together, elevate him, dump him down, and definitely soften up O'Malley a little bit with some ground and pound. But O'Malley is really good at his BJJ, so I don't believe that Petr Yan has what it takes to be able to submit him. But I think Petr Yan will be able to grind out this fight for a unanimous decision win. It's going to be 3 rounds, which means there's going to be a lot of high-paced action between these two individuals. And I think it's going to be high pace from the first bell all the way to the last bell. And it's going to be a very, very exciting fight at the end of the day. Like I said, I've got Petr Yan winning by unanimous decision. But I really do oblige Sean O'Malley for taking this opportunity. He wants the fight for a title. He believes that he's one of the best in the world. When it comes to inflated egos, he definitely has one of the biggest ones, but you can never doubt a fighter's belief. And a fighter's belief is all they need in order to do their absolute best inside of that octagon, inside that cage, inside that ring, no matter what combat sports you are a part of. I hope you guys enjoy the video. I hope you guys enjoy the fight. Like I said, UFC 280 this October in Abu Dhabi, UAE. See you guys. Take it easy.